I want to say hello to everybody. I know it's a hot evening, so we'll get started and get you guys out of here and back home. I'm sure everybody's got some, if you're like me, some gardening chores you've been avoiding in the heat and the rain. I know I do. All right. My name's Teresa Honeycutt, and I work at the Scott County Extension Office. A lot of you I already know. Some of you I don't. But I'm their 10-step program assistant, and I work with trying to find low-cost, healthy meals for our families, ways that we can use and save that little extra money for when life gets in the way and we need to be as frugal as possible. We've got some fabulous recipes, and we're going to do one tonight later, and it's a corn salad and a lot of fresh ingredients in it. I think everything in this was locally grown except maybe the radishes and the corn itself. Everything else, the onions and the tomatoes, everything else was locally grown. So how many of you have any, what all's in your garden right now? Anybody getting anything yet, or just on the edge of it? Potatoes, onions, squash, and cucumbers. I can make a meal on those all by themselves. Beans, you've got beans coming in? Woo! You're the winner. Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous. 90 in 3 days? Did you grow them? That is amazing. Let's just give her a hand, because like.
And then you watch Old Man Westerns.
Oh.
3 o'clock, and you get up 10 the next morning.
So the key to getting 90 quarts of green beans in 3 days is Old Men Western, she said. That's what needs to be on the TV. So that's the key I've been missing, evidently. So I will keep that in mind this year when I start canning. All right. Well, I do have, if you didn't pick up a survey on your way in, and it looks like this. If you don't already have one, if you want the free goodies tonight, you'll need to pick that up. So we'll get that turned in, because I'm going to hold your goodies hostage until I get a survey from you. That way UT knows I was here tonight, because I have a survey to prove it. But one of the things we want to talk about is water intake. And like Rhonda said, with the Heart Smart and Heart Healthy, the heart is an organ. And our entire body is not going to work at its full potential as easily as it can if we're dehydrated to start out with. And I don't think a lot of us realize that if you are feeling thirsty, you are already dehydrated. So the key is to be drinking water all day long, off and on, so that you don't feel that thirst. Well, something that complicates it, and I'm not going to ask you to tell your age. I'm going to tell mine, because I just had a birthday and I'm proud of it. And I think it was 57. It might have been 56. I really lose track. My husband has to keep me straight on it. But as we age, I wasn't aware until I actually got this job and started reading through our literature. Did you know that you actually start losing that, being able to tell that response of thirst? It's not something your body even interprets as quickly as it did when you was young. I didn't know that. Did you guys know that? So if you are my age or older, and you have gotten to the point that you're feeling thirst, you are already dehydrated and a little bit farther on deep into it. That means your kidneys are working harder, and your liver is working harder, and your heart is working harder. Your kidneys are working harder. The key to everything, before you can work on any of the other problems, hydration is first, okay? So tonight, when you give me your survey, one thing you're going to get is a free water bottle. Leo, wave a water bottle at them for me. So we're going to get a good water bottle to help encourage you to work on that water intake. And I know some of you may have picked up that trifold on Beet Thirst, and there's some little bookmarks as well. They did get a little wet with water, so they're a little stiff. So they've been getting their own. But it has some facts on here, like, did you know that more than half of your body is made of water? But one of them I found really interesting. We've heard since we were children, how many cups of water should we get a day? 8 8-ounce cups. Okay. Do you know where that came from? In the 1960s, the average American adult weighed between 110 and 130 pounds. So that was when they came up with 8-ounce glasses. They took an average of 120 pounds, and okay, let's look at that. They can't get us to drink 8-ounce cups. So they don't even bother with telling us what we actually need today. They can't get us to drink the other. This is not an overage. This is your minimum amount of daily water. For your body to be working at peak performance, this is the minimum daily amount of water to help protect your kidneys and your liver and your heart and everything else. So quietly in your head, this is not an out loud number. What do you weigh? Divide it by 2. That's how many ounces of water you're supposed to have a day. Oh, gracious. So, I don't know about you all, but I'm a long way from 64 ounces. How about any of you? So, if they don't even bother with really pushing it very hard, because most of us do not get the 8 ounces. It's hard. If you are not already currently getting it, don't try to do it all in one day. You will be going to the bathroom constantly. As you increase your water, you will have to go to the bathroom because your kidneys are saying, hey, what's going on? But as you continue to drink it, then your kidneys are going to get used to it and you're going to get back into a better rhythm, okay? But I urge you to attempt it, or at least pay attention tomorrow and see honestly how much you get and see if you're surprised with that number. I know I was. So let's do that. Now, one of the other papers I had laying out, did you just pick up one of these on using a food thermometer? It's really important, especially right now. We're in this grilling season and all of this. We want to make sure that we get those meats and those foods cooked to a proper temperature. We want to make sure that this evening when I went in there and reheated some barbecue chicken, that I got it to the right temperature. And this is going to help you do that. And I'm going to give you they're right here if they need some of these. I'm going to give you a food thermometer tonight so that you can take those home. Let's see, I've got one here. And this is just one. Most of you may already have them in your kitchen. They're good to replace every so often because they get out of calibration. Do you have one of these at home with the dial gauge? I had one of these and used it religiously, incorrectly. Again, until I actually got hired in this position, I didn't notice that there's a little indentation on the stem. You can run your little finger on it. It feels like a little dent, like you've knocked it up against something in the drawer or the dishwasher. You're not getting a correct temperature unless that dent is all the way inserted into your food. I didn't realize that. That's why that dent is there, to show you a marker point to try to get that inserted. So I'm going to let you in on that little trick. But that is, you want to also, when you do measure food, like if it's a hamburger, you're not going to poke this way. You're going to go into the side so that you can get that dent fully as far towards the middle as you can, so that you can get an accurate temperature. If you're taking the temperature of meat that's on a bone, you want to try to get it into the thickest part of that meat, not as close to the bone, because then you're not going to get an accurate reading. But as you start doing that, if you're like me, you'll find that your food is actually better because you're not overcooking it, trying to make sure that it's done, which was what I had been doing. So that's going to be there. It's going to talk about the right temperatures, and that's going to be on your handout of what you want to get those foods to do. And they're down here in this red box at the bottom. And it's going to talk about the correct temperatures for the different meats. We'll go over that real quick. 145 for beef and lamb and roasts. Medium is 160. 160 for ground pork, all the ground meats, ribs, roasts, and egg dishes. And 165 for ground turkey and ground chicken, for stuffing, for casseroles. They're going to need to get a little bit hotter so that you make sure the temperature's all the way through. Now, we're not going to go over all of that. That's a lot of text, and I know you guys can go through a lot of that at home, because I don't know about you, but I'm melting tonight. It's warm. But on the back, it does tell you a way that you can test your thermometer. If you've had it for a while, or you're like me who drops things quite a bit, and you want to make sure you've knocked it out of calibration, it tells you both a ice water and a boiling water way that you can recalibrate that, and so that you can help make sure you're still getting the correct temperature. We do have the refrigerator thermometers. Does anyone use these at home? Okay. So for those of you who are getting one tonight, there's two little blue zones that are going to be on it. That's your safe zones. That's where you want your temperatures to be. And that may not even seem like something you want to think about, but my husband was in the military and we traveled all the time. And usually when you'd go to a new state or a new country, you're sick for a while. And you blame it on the water, or, just jet lag for a while, and all of these different things. Well, we got to Maryland, and my family was sick for like 6 months. I would be sick, and then my husband would be sick, and then maybe me and my son, or just my son, and this went on for a while. And I started doing licensed childcare in my home, and this was a requirement. And I had refrigerator thermometers. My refrigerator was too warm. So when we were going in there and getting turkey slices and making a sandwich, or drinking milk, or my husband loves a raw hot dog, those foods were being held from the time we bought them until the time we ate them all up, just above that safe range. We were sick for 6 months. And when we've got the refrigerator adjusted, we were fine. I actually got a new refrigerator when we called housing. They came out and did their own little test and said, yep, it's not right. And we got a new refrigerator, and that was the end of it. But we blamed it on everything. There must be a stomach virus going around. Oh, there must be a bug. I don't feel real good today. And this little thermometer, it was that easy to discover a problem. So I do urge you to use those. All right. I think that's mostly it for me. I do have a vegetable peelers as well, because we've got all this produce coming in, right? I thought you might be able to use those, but I will give you those items when you return surveys to me at the end. You can come through and get those. But now the gorgeous Miss Leah is going to come talk to you about using herbs and things for flavoring, while I'm over here chopping some herbs up to go into your dish tonight that we're going to sample. So Leah.
If you wouldn't mind putting that on. It's
Oh, yay. Does it work right there? Okay. So I'm Leah Van Meter Cardwell. I'm the FCS 4-H agent in McCreary County. I'm brand new, so I started in January in the middle of all this fun COVID stuff. So like I said, a lot of you, it's new faces. Mine's going to be really short. Teresa had the long part today. I get to do the short part. But I'm just going to talk a little.
Too short. I have to chop these.
So how many of you use herbs and spices when you're cooking at home? So it can be salt, pepper, it can be onions, cinnamon, it could be, give me some other herbs, or garlic, oregano, basil, thyme, what else? Dill, sage, rosemary. Have we missed any? I always have a hard time remembering them all. Ginger, did we say that? Cloves, paprika, okay, cayenne pepper, bay leaves, so all sorts of spices. What are some of the benefits of using spices or herbs in your cooking? What is it? More flavor. What else? Less salt. What other things could it be? Cinnamon, it can be good for you. Yeah, so there's health benefits to using herbs and spices. One is that we can reduce the amount of salt. I don't guess you all have to raise your hand, but I'll tell on myself and how I was raised. Growing up, if something needed seasoning, it was salt and pepper. That's about all that was added. If something didn't taste quite right, guess what we did? We added more salt. And so you miss out on a lot of different flavors by doing that because our foods kind of tend to be bland. But salt is sodium, and what happens with sodium? Blood pressure goes up. It messes with our hearts. Again, it can mess with our kidneys. Salt has high blood pressure can be detrimental to our health as a whole. So if we can reduce the amount of salt we use and still preserve that flavor, so my career prior to Extension, I was a registered dietitian. And so I'd have people come in and they'd be put on a heart healthy diet. And the first thing they would say to me is, I hate this food, there's no flavor to it. Well, that's because, again, we were raised with that mindset of salt equals flavor instead of, hey, there's this whole list of things we can do to preserve the flavor and reduce the salt. So salt lowering, it's important. The other things that we do typically in America, I'm gonna blame it all on us as Americans right now. Other countries may be a little bit better, but we use fat and sugar as flavoring as well. And so we can actually use the herbs and spices to get that flavor that we desire and reduce the amount of fat and sugar that we're using in recipes too. So like cinnamon. Cinnamon is a sweet spice, right? It gives a lot of flavor. You may not need as much sugar to get that sweetness that you want if you're using cinnamon too. Or allspice, nutmeg, different things like that can add a lot of flavor, and we can reduce the sugar. The same with fat. If we can reduce just 1 tablespoon of fat, we've cut 10 grams of fat out of our diet for that day. So just reducing 1 tablespoon of fat out of a recipe, 1 tablespoon of butter, you can get a lot of grams of fat cut down. Let me see. So I always love the history of things. So history of herbs and spices, they've been used for thousands of years. We have records dating way, way back into the BCs where people were using herbs and spices to season their food. At one point, spices were considered so costly that only the wealthy could afford them. And in England in the 11th century, people were actually paying their taxes with pepper. Can you imagine that? Pepper being so expensive that you could pay your taxes with it? And then another fun fact, Columbus. We know he discovered America. He sailed the ocean blue, all that fun stuff. But he was actually on a mission to find a new trade route for spices. So they were so valuable that the monarchs in Spain sent Columbus on a voyage to find a way to get the spices there quicker and less expensively. And that's how we ended up with America. Let's see. I've also, y'all will see this paper. It's over here on the table. It's just got a lot of good information about all the different spices, what goes well with what. So if you've ever wondered, hey, I've got chicken, I wonder what I could put on my chicken to make it taste good. Cinnamon's listed on here for chicken, basil, and then also garlic powder, rosemary, thyme, oregano. So just, it gives good hints on, like, if you're wondering how to cook something, what seasoning you could use with it, this is a good cheat sheet for that. Huh? It's right over here on the table. I can pass it out.
Anybody smell any of these herbs yet? They made it to you?
What herbs do we have today?
I'm using some fresh curly parsley and some cilantro, and then of course some fresh garlic.
Okay. So, it does smell really good.
Can you smell it?
Yes.
Now, and if this is something and you taste this and you think, oh, that's too green. I can taste the green. That just means you're going to back off a little bit when you make it and bring that up to a level later. That once you get acclimatized to it. What we're told as young when I worked in daycare was that because my son, if he didn't like it, that was it. I just didn't give it to him again. I was a young mom and I didn't know any better. But if you try something 10 separate times, you will develop taste buds for that new taste. So if you don't like something the first time you try it, let me give you an example. Who here knows someone that makes the best dumplings in the world and then knows someone that maybe they're not so good?
Yeah.
Because you ate the ones that were not so good, did you stop eating the good ones? Okay then. If you taste something and you don't like it, that doesn't mean you will never like it. You just didn't like it in that dish prepared that way. So give it another try, just like chicken and dumplings. Right?
Chicken and dumplings, yep.
There we go.
Or my family, I grew up growing strawberries. And so I would have little kids come with their parents to buy strawberries. And I'd be like, do you want to try one? And they're like, oh, I don't like strawberries. Because they had tried either store-bought strawberries, frozen strawberries, strawberry ice cream, something like that. Well, if I could get them to try a fresh strawberry, a lot of times those kids had half the bucket ate before they left the stand. Because they tried it in a different setting, in a different way, maybe a different variety. And so again, it goes back to just because you tried it once and you don't like it doesn't mean you won't ever like it.
Okay, so we're gonna try these and see. And I think I forgot your copy of the recipe, so I'll have to let Rhonda email that. I think I left a bundle sitting on my bookcase. But this is a garden fresh salad. We started with ice doubling it. The recipe originally calls for 3 cups of raw corn cut off, just like we do when we're going to freeze it. I just didn't scrape it, so it's a little drier. So we're doing the corn, and the next is some fabulous black cherry tomatoes. Is anybody growing black cherries or chocolate cherries? You know they're yummy, don't ya? Yeah, so we're going to do a cup of those. The original recipe said half a cup. The next thing going in is chopped green onion. And I backed off on it because for whatever reason my onions were very strong. So we didn't use too much of the recipe though. And some cucumber. Because we get, maybe sometimes we get stuck preparing things the same way all the time, don't we? And this one may be a surprise for you, and it's got some cut radishes in it. Some of you have been in my 10-step classes and you've heard me talk about it, but all of the different colors of fruits and vegetables feed a different part of your body. Did you know that? If they taught us that in kindergarten, we would not have the problem we have with health. So the more colors you get in your dish, the more parts of your body that you're feeding. Not only are you feeding different parts of your body, you're fighting different diseases and different cancers just by colors. So if you're at my mama's and you look down and you have a blonde plate with rice and macaroni and cheese and rolls and chicken and dumplings and it's all one color, you need to realize you're not feeding your entire body. Something's being left out. Just like in our garden, if we fertilize and don't water, is it going to thrive? Or if we water and don't fertilize, is it going to thrive? It might make it through, but is it its best? Our body's the same. It needs everything. If we get all rain and no sun, the garden suffers, right? Our bodies suffer. So you want as many colors. But this is radishes. You can still grow radishes this time of year, especially if you have a place that gets more shade than sun. If they're in the sun the whole time, they get really hot, don't they? So I don't like them that way, but I put them into the shade. Lots of colors going in already. I backed off on the jalapeno, but I did make myself take a bite off of one of the pieces I did just to see how hot. It wasn't bad. But I started to pick them out here in the garden, but we had one and I looked at it and I'm like, it was almost black. It was so dark. Rhonda, one of the trustees, picked it. Sean, he said he cried. They said he took him like 45 minutes, and he had been bragging 2 days before that there wasn't a pepper too hot for him. But that one was, so you didn't get that pepper. So we're gonna do some jalapenos in there. I have mixed the dressing already, and in this was 1/4 cup of olive oil, doubled, red wine vinegar, the garlic, sea salt, and a little bit of pepper in here that I did already. So I'm just going to shake that up a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and put this in. Smells yummy. And I have backed off on the herbs just a little bit because I was afraid that not everyone would be accustomed to eating these. So we're just going to. Is that gorgeous?
It's so pretty.
It is gorgeous, isn't it? Huh? We put in curly parsley and cilantro. So, there we go. So we're going to get that.
I was going to try to help you.
There we go. I'll let you. Let me move some stuff out of the way where you get those over. Well, because that was what they had in the store that looked the best at that day, because I didn't have any fresh yet. I ate a piece at the house to see before I came in, and it wasn't real bitter. It has to have a grassier taste than cilantro. I'm a cilantro fiend. I eat it on everything. The key to it, though, is those dressings. Doing your own. Oh, is there anyone here who does not like feta? Well, I have add a little crumbles in there.
I don't think anybody raised their hand, so you should be safe.
Yeah, we have another one. Another set number. Doody. Hands are sweaty and everything. What are some of your favorite dishes? Do you eat a lot of cold dishes, or are all of your side dishes hot dishes?
Well, then squash I like garlic, squash, butter, and salt.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Squash. And onions also.
Yes. You will lid, I will scoop.
Okay, we can do it.
And if you have turned in or have your survey ready,
Some of them's already put
or
them back
already
there.
turned it in, you can come on up and get a sample.
Are these for you to get one out or then just grab
Just lay some on the table. I sanitized the space.
I gave you my survey. I tried this.
I'm sorry if I'm stinky. I've been running
You're
all
good.
day.
You are good. I'm sweating like a pig over here.
Your corn is raw, correct?
Pardon?
Your corn is raw.
Yep. Straight off the cob. Just grab you one. No fly.
That fly is one and
fly,
some.
Get. I hope yous like it. If you don't like it, I understand. You won't hurt my feelings. It takes a brave act of faith to try a new dish.
With onions, Teresa, it takes a big.
You're not an onion person there, Rhonda?
No. But I'm gonna try it.
I think most of the consensus is that it was something that we could repeat.
Do you have the
Love it.
recipe?
I have it on my desk. I'm gonna Send it to Rhonda and we'll email it out. How about the radishes? Is that something you are eating this time of the year normally, or is it kind of, no? So that's a new food that you're going to be able to work in. You typically don't like them, but you like them in that. That's what we want to hear. A lot of times that's what it comes back down to is what will you pair it with? I'm not one that's going to sit at my desk and eat whole radishes. But I like that little bit of peppery taste. Again, everything Leah was saying about flavoring the food, those radishes give its own little pepper. So when it said pepper to taste, I just did a few little cracks of that pepper meal in with that dressing when I made it because I knew I had those radishes in there. And it's a great way to help get those other vitamins into our family and so that we feed the whole body. So we had lots of colors in there, didn't we? Yeah. All right. Well, that is it for me unless you have any questions. Yes, you may have seconds. Absolutely. All right, then that is it.